Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name's Richard Beatty and today I'm going to be telling you the story about BatCars. I feel I need to explain this story because on the channel at the minute you're seeing a lot of car stuff. I thought I'd do a video just to explain why this is happening. Obviously the channel, I do all sorts of different things. I'm a tattoo artist and I do engraving and I mess on with opals, and I'm really interested in creative people, and that's why the channel's called the Cre8ors Podcast, so that we could do interviews with creative people and talk about me doing creative things and other people doing creative things. I wanted to give you the backstory on why I'm doing a lot of car stuff at the minute. Most people know me as a tattoo artist, so why am I doing cars? This dates back to when I was a kid, 8 years old. I said I wanted to be a car designer. My teachers were going around the class asking us all what we wanted to be when we grew up, and I said I wanted to be a car designer. My teacher said, right Richard, well, stick in at school and get good results at school, and then you can go to college, and then you know, once you finish at college you might be able to get a job as a car designer. Now in my head I thought I was going to be working for Henry Ford. I was completely obsessed with cars. I was just drawing cars all the time. By the time I was 11 I started tattooing at school, and I made my first tattoo machine when I was 12, and I got kicked out of school for tattooing when I was 12, and that then led to me. School hated me and I hated school, and you know, my exam results, I got a D in art and I think a G for physics, and I didn't even go to any of my other exams. So I didn't get those exam results to go to college to then, you know, learn to be a car designer. But I didn't stop drawing cars. So by the time I was 19, I'd designed a car and I wanted to build it. I'd designed the suspension, I'd messed on with straws, putting together the linkages and working out in theory how the suspension was going to work. I'd designed the full body, and it was kind of all there, and the next step would be to try doing it. I thought, right, the first thing I need to do is I need to learn to weld. So I bought a welder and I bought a Mark 1 Astra. An old rusty Mark 1 Astra. So that car at the time was an absolute rot box, and I started teaching myself how to weld on the front of my house, you know, in between work and stuff. And then the winter came and it got really cold, so I thought, right, I'm gonna have to get a garage, a little lock-up unit, and I got a little lock-up unit in the corner of a haulage yard, and continue to work on the car there. Now when you're welding rust, and you know, like obviously I was cutting the rust out, but that sort of welding, it's quite tricky, and it's not straightforward. It's not just like getting two bits of metal and sticking it together. You're upside down, and so it's hard. My friends started coming in the garage, you know, like other car fanatics sort of thing, and someone says, right, my car's failed, it's MOT. Can you do the welding on it? You can weld. So I was like, right, okay, well, you're gonna have to pay us. So next thing I'm welding up people's cars, fixing MOT failure stuff. So again, lots of rust. Before you know it, I wasn't working on my car at all on the Astra. I was busy doing other people's cars. It got to a point where I was getting really frustrated because I'd acquired another car at the time, a Mark II Astra. It didn't look like that when I got it, obviously, but that was the first full car that I'd painted. I actually didn't get the Mark 1 Astra finished for quite a while, several years actually. It ended up in the corner of the garage and didn't get done. But the Mark II Astra, the one with the checkered flag, I got that one finished. Now that one came with the body kit on it already. It had wide arches and the wheels and everything on it, but it was like a lime green colour. So that picture that you've just seen there, the car with the checkered flag, that was the first full respray that I'd ever done. So I actually taught myself how to paint as well. So first I taught myself how to weld, and then I taught myself how to paint. And this was all in preparation for building this car that I wanted to build. If I was going to build a chassis of this car that I wanted to build and a body, I needed to learn welding, and I needed to learn bodywork, and I needed to learn painting. So I'd already got the welding down. I was doing all right with the welding, and I was busy with that. And I'd managed to do my own car, which was the Mark II Astra. I painted that, and then I did the paintwork, the checkered flag on it as well. I actually did, just like winding back, I actually did my first custom paint job when I was 8 on a motorbike. So I was already messing on with rattle cans, you know, and you know, heavily into that sort of stuff. I got my first motorbike when I was 8, and I was already mechanically minded. I'd finished the Astra, and I was driving about in that, and then I was still doing all this welding, and eventually I was just absolutely sick of it, and I says, right, new rules. If you want me to work on your cars, I want to do what I want to do to them, because I didn't start this garage, I didn't, you know, start this whole thing to weld your shit, which is what I was doing. So the next guy that come in, a lad called Phil, he had a Vauxhall Nova, and he needed a front bumper putting on it and a couple of little bits and pieces, and I says, look, right, new rules, like, I want to do what I want to do to your car. And he says, right, okay, go for it. So he gave us his car, and he gave us some money, and I started working on his car, and that was the first custom client that I had. So I haven't got many pictures of that car actually, but I've got this one here, so insert picture. That's just the rear quarter panel of it, but in that picture you can see the back wheel and a vent and the fuel cap and some body kit stuff, and obviously my logo. When I started the garage, I was like, what am I going to call this? And I didn't want to call it Beatty's Bodyworks or, you know, anything kind of, not, because I knew that I wanted to do different stuff. So my surname's Beatty, so I just took the first 3 letters of my surname and called it BatCars, and that gave us the opportunity for a logo and a cool name for the garage. So I put the name above the door, put a sign above the door, and then as soon as I did that, everybody started calling us Batman. I was like, oh no, like, how do you live up to a nickname like that, you know? So, but it was alright, it's quite cool. So anyway, that was kind of how BatCars started. There was the Astra there, and then I did Phil's Nova, and it took way longer than I expected to do Phil's Nova. So Phil's Nova, what you can see in that picture, actually consists of a Vauxhall Nova. Some the rear spoiler, the upper spoiler, is off a Sierra Cosworth. The fuel cap is off the top of a motorbike petrol tank. So I cut out the top of a motorbike petrol tank, welded it into the side of the car, so we had that type of fuel cap in it, because motorbike fuel caps are way better than a car fuel cap. The vent that you can see on in front of the wheel, that was out of a motorbike fairing that I'd found in a hedge at like an accident site that I drove past, and I'd seen this bits of motorbike in the hedge. So I stopped and picked up the bits of fairing, and I cut those up and morphed them into the side of the car. So Phil's car was made out of all sorts of different pieces of scrap and crap, and a lot of filler foam. I discovered filler foam, and yeah, that was handy stuff. But and a lot of filler. I think that car ended up with around about 15 litres of filler in it, which is a lot. But anyway, I got that car finished, and I'm not too sure how this happened. I think maybe Phil had sent pictures off to a magazine, but as soon as that car came out of the garage, it went straight into Total Vauxhall magazine, and they did like a 5-page feature on the car. So like, we kind of went from like 0 to 60, you know. It was you know, 1 minute I'm like just welding crap up and messing on with my own stuff, and then the next thing I'm in like magazines. So the next car that I did was a Honda CRX, again insert picture, and in that picture you can see there, I put Toyota Supra backlights in it. I did a Perspex bonnet so you could see through the bonnet, you could see the engine, and again a full paint job. Now at this stage I'm still learning all this stuff. I'd never done custom fabrication. I'd only just kind of got the hang of welding. I was just finding my feet with painting. Phil's car was I painted that like white with a blue pearl over the top. Then I did John's car silver and like a black tone with metal flake in it. Even putting the Toyota Supra backlights in it, that was a mission, you know. I'd never done anything like that before, but it was kind of look cool, so I did it. And again, that car ended up in a magazine feature, Japanese Performance, I think. The ball was really starting to get rolling, and I was getting known for building these crazy cars, you know. And this was back before Fast and the Furious. It was around the same time as the start of Max Power. I think it was a little. I'd started a little bit before that, but Max Power had came along by this point, and the car scene was really starting to kick off. And yeah, I was getting quite well known for what I was doing. There was, you know, because I was in magazines, you know. More and more cars came. They did this Fiat Punto. So that car there, I did a full body kit on it, and obviously the paint job. Now, I'd already been messing about with airbrushing years before all this, so the airbrush came into it as well with the custom painting. And so that car there, I actually spent, I think it was something like 13-14 hours airbrushing that car, and it messed up the tendons in my arm so much. I had to wear a brace on my wrist for several days because the pressure of holding the airbrush for that long and doing all that lightning on it like messed up my hand a bit. That didn't go into a magazine or anything. It was just more of a car park car, you know, going to cruises and stuff like that. Around about that time, I decided to, you know, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going. So I took out an advert in the Thompson local directory, it was, and I took out the full inside page of the Thompson directory, and it was the first advert that I'd put out for the business. And I get a phone call off this guy from Warrington called Chris. And he was into car security, and he was doing car shows. He was turning up with a Porsche that was kitted out with TVs and alarms and, you know, all this sort of stuff. But he didn't feel his car was relevant to the younger generation that was going to these shows. So he asked me to build a car for him. And it was a Mitsubishi FTO. Now, he'd come up with this, the way he seen it. Now, I'd never met him at this point. I just imagined this guy walking about with a laptop. I didn't even have a computer at this time, you know. But he was all like, you know, internet, and was the internet even there then? I think it was. Anyway, he was all computers and all that sort of stuff and high tech. And I really wasn't. I was just hands-on. So I had like visions of this guy walking about with a computer, like some sort of like whiz kid and that. And eventually I meet him, and he brings the car up, and we discuss what we're doing. And he was just a normal bloke. He wasn't like a Dr. Robotnik or anything, but he did have a lot of technology around him. And one of his observations that he'd made while he was going to these shows and cruises, obviously when the car meets are called cruises, he was looking at the people that were going to them and trying to work out how best to sell to them. And one thing that had occurred to him was that a lot of the lads at the shows were kind of there for the chicks, and the chicks were there for the dudes, and the cars were just an excuse sort of thing. So he'd come up with this name, which the company was called Falcon Security, and I think still is. But he'd come up with this name called Cruising for Pussy. So the website that he had was www.cruising4pussy. And so he wanted a car built for Cruising for Pussy. that you know, kind of fit better with it. So I built this car for him, Mitsubishi FTO. It was covered in flames, did the whole interior, the sound system, the everything, you know, and all the paint work that you can see there. I put my logos on it as well. There was a hell of a lot of work went into that car, and it would have been, yeah, probably around about a £15,000 to £20,000 job. Only I did it for free. And the reason I did that was because Chris was going to all these shows, and I knew that if I did this car, I would be going to all those shows as well. And the deal was that wherever he goes, I go. So for years on, like, me and Chris worked together. He went to a show, he took me to a show. He was staying in a hotel, I was staying in a hotel, and he was, you know, he paid for me accommodation, and he paid for me entry into the show, and I was there helping him. I was there polishing the car, making sure the car was looking good, and speaking to customers, and obviously drumming up work from that, you know, as well. And he was doing the same, so it worked, you know. It started to pay off because obviously I was getting now seen at all these shows, because I wasn't going to the shows, you know. I was busy working, so this was a good opportunity for me to start going to all these shows and start interacting with the people that were going to them. Yeah, it certainly like increased my position in the industry and got me even better known. That car ended up in several magazines, and actually ended up at Max Power London. I don't know what year it was. Maybe 2001, 2002, something like that. And all of a sudden, like, there's supermodels sitting on the bonnet of my car getting pictures stuck of them. And when Katie Price was Katie Price the first time, before she ever became Jordan, it was Max Power that like discovered Jordan or Katie Price, and so that's where she started. And so now, like, there's Katie Price's on the bonnet of my car, you know, sliding off. She was complaining that it was too slippy because there was that much polish on it. So that opened all sorts of doors. I met all sorts of people. We ended up after parties with the guys from Dirty Sanchez, Jackass. We're in like the Hilton in London with the guys from Jackass. It was wild times. The parties were great, and you know, every weekend was brilliant, really. And that was like pretty much every weekend that we were hitting shows after that, you know. Chris sent us another car to do for him as well, another FTO. He wanted that done for his wife, and he says, do what you want with it. So I painted it pink, and when I ordered the paint from Fleet Factors in Carlisle, I made the colour up. I said I want it to be like this, and when they delivered the tin of paint, it actually said dog cock pink on the tin. So I painted this car dog cock pink, and on the side of the car I airbrushed bitchin' pink, like bitchin' as in bitchin', but not bitch in. Obviously, like, I don't think Colette took it that way, and I don't think she liked it, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's so that was that car, and then from that, directly from there, meeting Chris met a guy called Athel, and he was also building an FTO. Athel ended up sending his car to me, and the car that we built, it started with this car here, so insert picture. I made the full body kit for this car. I made the wheel arches, we made the side skirts, made the bonnet vent, made the roof vent. So this was now me like learning to get into the stage where I was actually like producing fiberglass parts. Again, this was a first for me, but in the future I would be able to build a full car body. If I was able to build small parts, you just scale it up, yeah? So Athel decided that he wanted it painted chrome, and this paint had never been used to paint a full car before. In fact, the paint company said, do not paint a full car with this, it's just for doing small parts. So obviously, like, there's a rule to be broken, isn't it? So we decided to paint the full car chrome. Now, it turned out that 50 Cent, the rapper, was getting a Lamborghini Murcielago painted in the same colour at the same time, because this paint had just been released. It was a new thing. So I didn't realise I was getting into a race with 50 Cent, but apparently I was. He won. It was about 2 weeks before I got this one finished. He got his finished. So Athel's dad, who was essentially funding the whole project, wanted a world first, because this was going to be a world first. And he wanted a world first, so we ended up putting a gold candy over the top of the chrome, which created a gold chrome candy. That was definitely a world first. Nobody had done that. So that was that car. Insert picture. Obviously, it's got Lamborghini doors on it. I fitted those as well. In fact, we had to make the hinges for that. And that car ended up at all sorts of different shows, won some big trophies and that. And yeah, another one that I'm really proud of. The next car, now these aren't necessarily all in exact order, but here's Neil's Mini. So I had Neil's car in the garage several times. Eventually, I put the Lambo doors on it. We'd done some paint work on it, fixing bits and pieces. Then it went to another body shop and got a full body kit and a paint job. And then it came to me to get the dashboard painted. So, because all the interior was all painted as well. So that car actually won Best in Britain. Next car is Vauxhall Corsa. Now you can see that car, insert picture, in the background. That's my garage. So I'd just moved to that garage. I'll give you a quick backstory of here. I'd started in the tram in the corner of the haulage yard. They decided to sell the haulage yard, so we had to move. They gave us a month to move. I'd just employed my first employee, Jonathan that you see in the videos now. And I'd prized him out of a normal car garage. He says, "Come and work for me, you're a genius, you know, like let's do some mad shit." And eventually he did. And then 2 or 3 months into that, we got told we had to move out. So we had to find somewhere really quickly because we were only given a month. So we ended up at a place out of town. Wasn't ideal, but all my customers had cars. We set up there. We'd been there about 6 months, and then, well, someone robbed us. First of all, they robbed the stuff outside, broke in, and then they came back and broke into the office, and then they came back, and this is 3 separate robberies. Turned out it was all the same guy. And then they broke into the garage and they took absolutely everything. I couldn't find a screwdriver to screw my door back into the wall. They had no tools. The load of customers' stuff got nicked. The insurance didn't pay out. I thought I was well insured, but from ever since, I do not trust insurance companies. They are lying motherfuckers. So anyway. So the insurance didn't pay, they paid out some, but they only paid out a tiny fraction of what got nicked, even though it was all supposed to be covered. And so I ended up going to this unit where behind the Corsa there, because it was on a secure site. There was security 24 hours a day, so I ended up there. Now you can see the size of that garage. I had that full building. So Jonathan was down in the end, tuning cars in the far end, and I was up in the end closer to the car there, doing the bodywork, and the spray booth was sort of in the middle. So that car there, it was for, I can't remember his name. Surname's Tolson. I can't remember his name, and actually I've just found out that it's possible he's not here anymore. Unfortunately, I think I found out that out. Lee Tolson. Yeah, I don't know whether that's true or not. Hope it's not, but my condolences to the family if it is. So I built that car for Lee Tolson, and the way that car was done was the car was painted black, and then I used a special paint called Marbleizer, and what you do with that is you spray it on, and then you put cling film over the car, mush it all about, moves the paint about to create this sort of marble effect. And then I sprayed 3 different candies over the top of that, teal at the front, into blue, into purple at the back, and then the lightning that I put on that is actually glow in the dark. So I did that car, and at that point I was now involved in car shows as well, like organising car shows. And we're several years on now. This would have been now 2006, thereabouts, 2005, 2006, and we put on a car show at Carlisle Racecourse called Cruise Fest Northwest, and so things were kind of getting much bigger scale. I built another car, Vauxhall Corsa. Actually, the next Vauxhall Corsa in the picture now was in the garage when the garage got robbed. So this car got caught up in a whole load of mess. It caused a lot of stress for a lot of people. Kev, the owner, obviously it was just messy. It was messy for him, it was messy for me. There was not a lot I could do. Everything had been sort of taken out of my control. But anyway, I eventually got that car finished, and that's a picture of the car there with some of the lasses that worked for us when we were going to the shows, because you have girls in bikinis handing out flyers and stuff. So there's a couple of fire breathers in the background as well in that picture. At that point, things were the car show was an absolute flop, although it went quite well for a first attempt, as it were. Well, actually it was the second show. The dates, I'm not into football, but the date that we'd set for it was like a clear weekend in the calendar, and so I set this weekend, and it turned out it was the World Cup. That's probably why it was a free weekend, because it turned out it was the World Cup starting that weekend. And when we found out about it, we're like, oh no, do we cancel the show? But we'd already put a load of deposits down and stuff, so we decided to go ahead with it. And then the teams got drawn for the first match, and England were playing. So that really messed things up. So the turnout on Saturday was awful because the World Cup was on, and even people who had bought tickets for the Sunday didn't turn up because the England lost, and everybody went out on the piss, and so that was quite a disaster. That I lost a lot of money that weekend, and then my dad died as well not long after that, so things were getting really, really messy at this point. But I'd bought a Mitsubishi Evo to try and cheer myself up. That was a great car, absolutely rapid, but somehow it just wasn't floating my boat. And my friend James had a Nissan GTR that he wanted to swap it for the Evo, and very long story short on that one, we ended up doing a deal for I got his Nissan Skyline GTR, 500 quid and a ball python snake. That was one of the maddest swaps I've ever done. But it also came, part of the deal was it was going to come with Max Power's old Cre8ors, which was the first project car that Max Power had built. He'd acquired it and had it sat in storage. I wanted to use it as a promo vehicle, and so he loaned me the car, and that car actually ended up getting stolen out of storage when I had it in storage. That car got nicked. The guy turned up that had been working for me, turned up with a trailer and said to a secure storage place, and says, I've come to pick up a car for Richard. And they says, I no bother, just go and get it. Because they wouldn't think otherwise, would they? But yeah, he picked up the car and off he goes with the car, never to be seen again until about a year later, when he actually took it to Max Power show on its 10th birthday, on the car's 10th birthday. The police turned up and everything, but they still couldn't get the car back. Not long after that, I'd lost a load of money on the car show, and then my dad died, and Then the recession was starting. The credit crunch started back in about 2005, and looking back, that's when I could see it starting. By 2006, that was getting pretty bad. I was getting bumped on a lot of jobs. People couldn't pay us. 2007, we were literally on the edge of going into the recession. The show had happened and lost a load of money there, and then boom, we're in recession. And now nobody could afford to pay the bills, and I ended up with a load of cars that I couldn't do anything with, that people couldn't pay for. I had to keep in storage. Yeah, that was a really tough time, you know. Like I had bailiffs knocking on my door. Yeah, the stress was horrible, and obviously with everything else that had happened, my dad dying and stuff like that. I wasn't mentally equipped for it. I was battered, you know. I was exhausted. I'd worked my ass off because I didn't know what a recession was, so I was trying to like work my way out of, you know, like all this debt problem that I had, and it wasn't working, you know. And I guess I shouldn't have been like trying to do the same thing. It wasn't what I was doing that got me into the situation. It was the recession, but I should have probably just started doing insurance work or painting gates or something that wasn't custom cars, because it's excessive, you know. Like, people don't need custom cars, especially when there's a recession on, you know. So I ended up going bankrupt in 2007. Couldn't afford to pay my bills, and it made us really ill. In fact, I could safely say I've never been depressed in my life apart from this time. Yeah, it was difficult. I was at this point now, I was seeing like doctors for anxiety. I was feeling like I was having a heart attack. I was so stressed out. Didn't know what it was. They said it was anxiety, but I felt like I was having a heart attack. And I just like laid low, you know. There was nothing that I could do. I was just sitting in me bedroom, just depressed, you know. I'd had to move back into my parents, into my mum's, because my dad was dead. I was now sat at home doing nothing, and it was around this point that I got back into tattooing. A friend asked us to do him a tattoo. I says, I haven't got a tattoo machine. He says, well, I'll buy one off eBay, and I did his tattoo, and that's kind of when I got back into tattooing. So the car thing now was, you know, fading off into the distance, and now I was getting really busy with the tattooing, and eventually I opened Immortal Art Studio. My business partner at the time, Rob, asked us to build him a car, and he wanted an El Camino. So he bought El Camino, and it didn't look like that at the time. It was just a standard car, and we did a hell of a lot of work to that car. That front bumper was completely custom, the bonnet was completely custom, the back was motorised and opened up. So I built him that, and it never actually got finished for whatever reason, but I also decided to do myself a car, and I bought a GC8 Subaru, which is the classic Subaru, but it was the two-door version, so a really rare car. It was actually a Japanese import, and I didn't really do much with the external of the car apart from graphics. Images that you can see on the car are actually a wrap that was designed by my apprentice at the time, Kizzy, my apprentice at the tattoo studio. So we had that car wrapped, and spent quite a lot of money at Roger Clark Motorsport. Unfortunately, there was some problems with the car, and it just kept on blowing up. I think I went through 3 engines with that car. So at that point I was sick of cars again. So I was like, right, I bought a Jaguar. It's the first brand new car I'd ever bought. I thought, right, I just want a nice luxury car. I want to treat myself, something that I'd never have to open the bonnet on. I just want something that's nice and quality, and that makes me feel good, because I kind of felt like I needed something to cheer us up again, For quite a while after that, and it was probably like, I've had that car, I've still got that car. I've had that car 8-9 years now. At some point, I'd say 3-4 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago. So 2020 we are now. I was on holiday and I seen Ken Block, who's also passed now, R.I.P. He was bombing about in this buggy thing. I was on holiday and I was like watching this video, sat beside the pool, and here's Ken Block bombing about in this buggy, and I was like, oh my god, what the hell is that? And so I ended up buying one of those when I got back off holiday. That was possibly the craziest car I've ever owned. What an experience. Absolutely brilliant. It's a Can-Am Maverick X3 RS. So I had it a matter of weeks before I rolled it. I rolled it twice, like a double roll. So I had to then fix it. So the picture, the car in the picture that you see there was not essentially it didn't look like that when I bought it. It was all different colours and that. But I ended up painting it and straightening it out. And so I had that for quite a while, and then I got rid of that. Around about the same time that I got rid of that, I ended up having a problem with my lungs. For my whole life I've smoked weed, and don't smoke weed, kids, because it can fuck your shit up. So my right lung actually burst. Long story, but anyway, my lungs were fucked with smoking. I ended up in hospital. I was in hospital for like 30 days, and when I came out of hospital, I was just like, shit, man, I nearly died there, I thought, do you know what, like, I'm all I do is stuff for other people. I'd barely done any of these cars for myself, I thought, I want to do a car for me. And I thought it'd be great if I could build a car that was built the same year that I was born, 1973. So I started looking for cars built in 1973, and I found this old Datsun 620. I'd never seen one before. So I was like, wow, that's cool, I really like that. And I ended up buying it. It was imported from Thailand. It was in the UK at the time, but it was in South Wales, so I didn't want to go and have a look at it. The guy says, hey, it's great, it just needs a bit of TLC. That's what he said. Well, when I got it and I had a good look at it, it really needed a lot more than TLC, and the longer I had it and looked over it, I realised it needed everything. It needed brakes, it needed a fuel tank. The fuel tank was ruptured. It needed everything. It didn't even have any brake cables. Someone had cut the cables off to the handbrake. It was an absolute mess. But me being me, it didn't really faze us, because obviously I knew that anything that's knackered, I could fix it. But I couldn't get parts for it because there isn't any Datsun 620s in the country. They were never made in this country. They were never sold in this country. So I thought, right, I need a donor car. So I bought a drift car, and a Nissan 200SX. So that was a fully built drift car, ready to go. Suspension, and fully built engine, roll cage, big wide arches, big wheels, all that sort of stuff. And I took that car to bits to use as the donor parts for the Datsun. So the plan was, and still is, to build something like this. That's not my rendering. That's I think it is a computer rendering. I don't think that car exists. But I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I want to build it. So as you can see, that's a pretty cool car. So I started building that. We knew we needed to, I was going to use the front subframe, the back subframe, the engine, the suspension, the brakes, the gearbox, everything out of that car into the Datsun. So I knew I had to replace the front of the chassis, which was rotten in the Datsun, and the back of the chassis, which was pretty f***ed up too. And so I was only left with the middle. I thought, sod it, we may as well build a full chassis. So we can probably insert a couple of pictures there of the chassis being built, and this is when actually we can wind back a little bit. When I had the buggy, and just before my operation, this was like at the start of lockdown. It was at the start of COVID, and this is when I started the podcast. I was sat at home on lockdown, bored, and wanted to do something. So that's actually when I started the podcast. When I got the Datsun and started working on that, that's when I started doing the YouTube stuff, really. Some of the interviews I'd done and whatnot had ended up on YouTube, but that was when you started seeing me do the car stuff on YouTube. So I started building this Datsun, and this was like, just something for me, do you know what I mean? Like, I ended up building this chassis, and the chassis is done. The car is now rolling. If you look back through the videos, you can see that. And I started to think to myself, what am I going to do when I finish the Datsun? Because I've really enjoyed doing the Datsun. Not that it was anywhere near finished, but what am I going to do when I finish the Datsun? So I had a quick look. I thought maybe I'd build a kit car. So I had a quick look, and I seen an RS200 kit car, and I was like, well, that's cool. That'd be brilliant. One of my all-time favourite cars. So next, it was about 2 weeks later, if that, I'd went to bed, opened my phone up, went on Facebook, clicked on Facebook Marketplace, flicked twice, and an RS200 went past, and I was like, what the hell? You just never see RS200s for sale. I mean, like, in a genuine RS200 will go for like £500,000. So I was like, whoa, and I scrolls back, and it wasn't. It turns out it was an RS200 kit car. Not only was it an RS200 kit car based on an MR2, it was only 9 miles away from where I live. So I went and had a look at it, ended up buying it, and the plan was to just shelve it until I finished the Datsun. But we hit some problems with the Datsun, just some hold-ups. So I thought while I'm waiting on the Datsun part, I'll start building the RS. And I'd bought the donor car as well as the kit. So I started on the MR2. Now the kit came like this, insert picture, and that's kind of what you've been seeing for the last 7 months now. I've been working on that car. So obviously that's getting close, and I'll be getting back onto the Datsun when the RS200 is finished. I've changed so much on the Datsun, on the RS200, that I'm not calling it an RS anymore, although I do put RS in the thing. I only do that so that people can find it if they're looking for RS200 stuff. But when that car's finished, it's going to have RB 200 on it rather than RS 200 on it, and the badge on it isn't going to be a Ford badge, it's going to be a BAT. So my intention with that is I'm going to I've changed it so much it is now completely my own, and I'm going to mould that full car and make a full body that fits directly to an MR2 instead of the absolute con that I've had trying to get this onto this car. Because as you've known if you've watched these videos, it's been a piece of shit. I've got to be honest, it's been an absolute piece of shit, and it's almost criminal that this is being sold as a kit for an MR2, because I can't even justify it as that. But there's couple of weird things that have happened here, because I've realised that at this stage with the RB200, I'll have built a full body, and with the Datsun, I've built a full chassis. So winding back to the reason that I'd started BatCars was I wanted to build my own car that I'd designed. I needed to learn to build a chassis, and I needed to learn to build a full body. Now, decades on, nearly 2.5 decades on, I have now actually got the knowledge, the skills, and I've actually done it, but just not together. I'm taking molds of the RS RB200, and I'll be selling that kit, and I'm also planning on buying in MR2s and making my own kit, putting them on the MR2 and rolling those out the door as BatCars RB200. So BatCars is kind of coming back, but in a in a different way, not like it was. I don't want customers walking through the door. I don't want to be building cars for other people, them coming to me and saying, oh, can you do this? No, can you do that? And, like, I don't want to do that. I want to do my own shit. And this is the shit that I'm going to do. So, like, now, bizarrely, all of a sudden, I'm faced with the possibility of doing what I set out to do right at the very start. So it's kind of blowing my mind that's where I'm at with it. So moving forward into the future, that is the plans. I'm gonna produce my own kit. At that stage, once I achieve that, which is gonna happen, it's like really close to happening. Once I've done that, then the next step from that for me and for BatCars is to build the car that I've always wanted to build. Now, I haven't got the designs for it anymore. I don't know where they are, but like it's not going to take much recreating. I'd have probably drawn it differently anyway, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to design a car. I'm going to make my own body completely from scratch. I'm going to design a chassis, and we're going to put the two together and build a fully built BatCar from start to finish. In that would then, I will achieve what I set out to do with all of this. But also, like, back to when I was 8, I did, saying that I wanted to be a car designer, like, that would be not just being a car designer, but becoming a car manufacturer, albeit very small, but that's what it would be. So that's what I'm faced with at the minute. That's the potential, that's the possibility that I wouldn't say I'm working towards it, but it's coming to me, and I'm definitely going to it. So that's where we're at, and that's why the YouTube channel, the Cre8ors Podcast, now looks like some car builders channel, which it isn't necessarily that, but it is at the minute. I'm still going to be doing podcasts. I haven't done many lately, but I'm still going to be doing that. I still want to speak to creative people. I've got a podcast coming up with a guy called Dave Gelder. He's a jeweler. Makes amazing jewellery. So all that's still going to be happening, and I'm not turning this channel into a BatCars channel. It's not. It's just me doing my thing. It's just me being creative. It's my creative outlet, and I'm just showing you what I'm doing. So I really wanted to just explain why, how, what the hell is going on with what I'm doing, and my history with it, because it's been nearly a quarter of a century of my life that I've been messing on with cars in some sort of way or other. That's the story of BatCars and how that happened, and right up to now, and into the future, into what's potentially gonna happen. So yeah, there you go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for all the comments and the support. It's because it is a big help. It kind of spurs you on. The YouTube thing is hard work. Creating these videos is hard work. I want to do a video also about Immortal Media, which is another side of my business, and properly introduce Cubes to you and show you what we do in the background as well, because there's a lot of work goes into this. A lot of work goes into the channel, and there's a lot of work goes into Immortal Media itself. So that's going to be a video that I'm going to do as well. But thanks everybody for supporting the channel and liking it and subscribing and all that stuff. Please share stuff out as well, because you know, that's how it grows, isn't it? So yeah, thanks guys, and we shall see you on the next video. Hopefully it's going to be another RB200 video. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye for now.